Imagine being thousands of feet in the air when everything goes silent, the engines fail. The clock is ticking, and the fate of 155 people rests on one decision. This is the true story of Skyjet Flight SJ1549. Drop a comment and share where you're joining us from. If stories like this resonate with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss our next inspiring journey. On the chilly afternoon of January 15, 2009, LaGuardia Airport in New York was abuzz with activity. The sky was a muted gray, hinting at the winter chill that enveloped the city. Amidst the hustle and bustle, Skyjet Flight SJ1549, an Airbus A320-214, stood ready on runway 04, its sleek body gleaming under the overhead lights. The flight was scheduled to depart at 3:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bound for Charlotte, North Carolina, with a final destination of Seattle, Washington. Inside the bustling terminal, the energy was palpable. Families hurried through security, clutching luggage and boarding passes, while business travelers reviewed documents and adjusted their ties. Among them were 150 passengers, each with their own story, their own reasons for being on this flight. There was excitement, anticipation, and a touch of nervousness as they prepared for the journey ahead. In the cockpit, Captain Michael Mick Thompson reviewed the flight plan one last time. A seasoned pilot with over 25 years of experience, Mick had seen it all. Born and raised in Boston, he had served as a fighter pilot in the United States Air Force before transitioning to commercial aviation. His calm demeanor and sharp instincts had earned him the respect of his crew and passengers alike. Beside him sat First Officer Dave Collins, a trusted second-in-command with 15 years of flight experience. Dave was known for his meticulous attention to detail and his unwavering support for Mick. Together, they formed a formidable team, ensuring that every flight under their command was safe and efficient. In the cabin, flight attendant Lisa Martinez moved gracefully through the aisles, ensuring that passengers were comfortably settled. With over a decade of experience, Lisa had mastered the art of multitasking, balancing safety protocols with genuine care for each passenger. Her warm smile and reassuring presence helped ease any lingering anxieties among those on board. As the final passengers boarded, the crew made their rounds, conducting safety checks and offering refreshments. The atmosphere inside the plane was one of quiet anticipation, punctuated by the occasional chatter and the soft hum of the aircraft's engines. Lisa checked her clipboard, ensuring that all safety measures were in place, while Mick and Dave communicated with air traffic control, receiving clearance for takeoff. Outside the cockpit, the passengers settled into their seats, some reviewing magazines, others adjusting their seats for comfort. Among them were individuals like Trip Harris, a project manager from Birmingham, Alabama, and Pam Siegel, who had recently moved to Wilmington to pursue her passion for empowering women economically. Each person carried their own hopes and dreams, unaware of the extraordinary events that were about to unfold. With a final glance at the instruments, Mick gave the signal. The engines roared to life, and the plane began its graceful ascent into the sky. The cityscape of New York receded below as Skyjet Flight SJ1549 climbed to cruising altitude, embarking on what seemed to be a routine flight. Little did anyone know, within minutes, their lives would change forever. As the aircraft pierced through the clouds, the crew maintained their professional composure, focused on their duties. Lisa moved through the cabin, ensuring that everyone was comfortable, while Mick and Dave monitored the flight systems with practiced precision. The flight was progressing smoothly, the passengers unaware of the impending challenge that awaited them. In those final moments before the routine continued, The stage was set for a story of courage, quick thinking, and unwavering resolve. The passengers and crew of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 were about to face a test that would reveal the true depth of human resilience and the extraordinary capabilities of those entrusted with their safety. The flight had been progressing smoothly, with passengers comfortably settled into their seats and the cabin crew efficiently attending to everyone's needs. Mick Thompson and Dave Collins maintained their focus on the instruments, ensuring that every system was functioning correctly as Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 cruised gracefully above the clouds. Suddenly, without warning, the tranquility of the flight was shattered. At approximately 2.818 feet above ground, the aircraft encountered a flock of Canadian geese. The collision was swift and violent, sending shockwaves through the plane. The engines, once humming steadily, now sputtered and failed, leaving the Airbus A320 silent and powerless against the open sky. Inside the cockpit, Mick's eyes widened as he observed the sudden drop in engine performance. Dave quickly moved to assist, both men working in unison to diagnose the extent of the damage. The realization hit them hard: both engines were completely out of commission, and the aircraft was losing altitude rapidly. There was no time to return to LaGuardia Airport or divert to the nearby Teterboro Airport. The situation was dire, and a critical decision had to be made. Meanwhile, in the cabin, chaos erupted. Passengers screamed and scrambled, the once orderly environment descending into pandemonium. Lisa Martinez and her fellow flight attendants sprang into action, their training kicking in instinctively. With authoritative calm, Lisa directed passengers to don their life vests and brace for impact. Her voice, though steady, carried the weight of urgency and reassurance, trying to quell the rising panic among those on board. Trip Harris, seated near the front, felt his heart race as he glanced around at the terrified faces of his fellow passengers. He could see the fear in their eyes, yet there was a flicker of hope sparked by the composed demeanor of the flight attendants. Pam Siegel, sitting across from him, reached out and squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his presence. Back in the cockpit, Mick took a deep breath, steadying himself as he assessed their dwindling options. "We need to make an emergency landing," he announced to Dave, his voice betraying none of the fear that surely lurked beneath his calm exterior. Dave nodded, his own anxiety masked by years of experience and trust in Mick's leadership. As Mick communicated with air traffic control, informing them of their situation, he began to calculate the best possible landing site. The Hudson River, lying just south of Midtown Manhattan, presented itself as the only viable option. The decision was unprecedented, but time was running out, and the safety of everyone on board depended on it. Lisa and the other flight attendants continued their crucial role in the cabin, guiding passengers to the exits and ensuring that everyone was prepared for the imminent impact. The cabin crew's coordinated efforts were a testament to their professionalism and dedication, providing a semblance of order amidst the chaos. Passengers like Trip and Pam found themselves caught between sheer terror and a newfound trust in their crew. They watched as Mick and Dave worked tirelessly, their confidence in the pilots unwavering despite the dire circumstances. Lisa's steady instructions and calming presence acted as a lifeline, helping passengers cling to hope even as the reality of their situation loomed large. Outside, the ground seemed to rush towards them at an alarming rate. The realization that their fate now rested entirely in the hands of Mick and Dave pressed heavily on everyone's minds. The cabin was filled with the sounds of rushing air, the clinking of seatbelt buckles, and the occasional tearful cry, all underscored by the relentless ticking of the aircraft's instruments. As the plane began its rapid descent towards the Hudson, Mick's mind was laser-focused on executing the emergency landing with precision. Every decision, Every adjustment was made with the singular goal of saving as many lives as possible. Dave assisted, providing critical support and ensuring that all systems were in optimal condition for the impending touchdown. In those final moments before the impact, the collective breaths of 155 individuals were held in anticipation. The aircraft, now at the mercy of gravity and human ingenuity, prepared to make history in an act of unparalleled bravery and skill. The stage was set for what would become known as the Miracle on the Hudson, a testament to the extraordinary courage and quick thinking of those at the helm. As Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 continued its rapid descent towards the Hudson River, Captain Mick Thompson and First Officer Dave Collins faced an unimaginable reality. The failure of both engines left them powerless, and time was slipping away with each passing second. The once serene flight had transformed into a dire emergency, and every moment counted. Mick glanced at the flight instruments, his mind racing to assess their dwindling options. Returning to LaGuardia Airport was no longer feasible. The distance was too great, and the time required to execute a safe landing was beyond their immediate capacity. Diverting to Teterboro Airport in New Jersey was equally impossible, as the terrain and infrastructure did not offer a viable alternative for an emergency landing under the current circumstances. With no other options on the table, Mick began to analyze the remaining possibilities. The Hudson River, lying just south of Midtown Manhattan, presented itself as the only realistic and safe option. The decision weighed heavily on him, but the safety of the 155 souls on board rested squarely on his shoulders. He knew that landing on water was uncharted territory for a commercial Airbus A320, but the situation demanded unprecedented action. Dave stood beside him, offering unwavering support. Together, they reviewed their calculations, factoring in the aircraft's current speed, altitude, and distance from the riverbank. The gravity of the situation was palpable, but Mick's experience and training had prepared him for crises of this magnitude. His steady hands and clear mind were the anchors that would guide them through the impending storm. Mick took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. "Dave, we don't have any other choice," he stated firmly. "We need to land on the Hudson." Dave nodded, his trust in Mick absolute. "Understood. Mick, I'll handle the communications and prepare the cabin for an emergency landing." Meanwhile, in the cabin, Flight Attendant Lisa Martinez and her colleagues were fully immersed in their roles. Lisa moved gracefully through the aisles, ensuring that every passenger was secured and ready for the impact. Her voice remained calm and authoritative as she guided passengers to don their life vests and brace for the emergency landing. The flight attendants worked in perfect harmony, their coordinated efforts a testament to their extensive training and unwavering professionalism. Back in the cockpit, Mick took control of the aircraft's descent, his focus unbroken despite the chaos unfolding below. He communicated swiftly with air traffic control, informing them of their dire situation and their intended emergency landing on the Hudson River. Every decision, every adjustment, was made with the singular goal of maximizing the safety of everyone on board. The passengers, sensing the gravity of the situation, began to respond to the flight attendants' instructions. Trip Harris and Pam Siegel, along with the rest of the passengers, felt a mix of fear and hope. The presence of Lisa and the other flight attendants provided a semblance of order amidst the panic, reassuring them that their crew was doing everything possible to ensure their safety. As the aircraft neared the river, Mick's confidence never wavered. His years of experience and unwavering commitment to his passengers fueled his determination. He knew that the success of this emergency landing depended not only on his skills but also on the support and cooperation of his crew. The flight attendants, like Lisa, played a crucial role in maintaining calm and guiding passengers through the final preparations. With a final confirmation, Mick aligned the aircraft for its descent onto the water. The Hudson River, a vast expanse of liquid steel, awaited their landing. The engines, silent and lifeless, no longer threatened to drag the plane into further chaos. The moment of truth had arrived. Mick's hands remained steady on the controls as the Airbus A320 touched down on the river's surface. The impact was jarring, sending a wave of water cascading over the fuselage. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, everything hung in the balance. Then, the plane began to slow, its descent finally coming to a halt. Silence enveloped the aircraft as it settled onto the water, the only sound the gentle lapping of waves against the hull. Mick glanced over to Dave, who gave a reassuring nod. Their decision had been correct, and their teamwork had paid off. The passengers, though shaken, began to respond to the flight attendant's instructions, readying themselves for the evacuation. As the plane came to a complete stop, Mick took a moment to breathe, the tension slowly ebbing away. He knew that their work was far from over, but the immediate danger had passed. The next crucial step was ensuring that everyone could safely exit the aircraft and reach the rescue boats that would soon arrive. The courage and decisiveness Mick had displayed in those critical moments were the driving forces behind the successful emergency landing. Supported by his dedicated crew, he had made the life-saving decision that would prevent what could have been a tragic disaster. The stage was now set for the final act of this extraordinary story, where the true measure of human resilience and teamwork would shine brightly. As Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 hurtled towards the Hudson River, the tension inside the aircraft was palpable. Captain Mick Thompson remained focused on the controls, his hands steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. First Officer Dave Collins worked alongside him, ensuring every adjustment was precise. The Airbus A320-214, once a symbol of modern aviation, now faced its most critical challenge. The aircraft descended swiftly, the ground approaching with alarming speed. Outside the cockpit window, the expansive waters of the Hudson River came into view, reflecting the fading light of the afternoon sky. Mick took a deep breath, aligning the plane for its unprecedented landing. The decision to touch down on water had been agonizingly difficult, but there was no other viable option to ensure the safety of the 155 souls aboard. As the plane neared the river's surface, the crew sprang into action. Lisa Martinez and her fellow flight attendants moved with practiced efficiency, securing passengers in their seats and ensuring everyone was prepared for the impact. The cabin, previously filled with anxiety and fear, now resonated with the coordinated efforts of the crew striving to maintain order. The Airbus A320 touched down on the Hudson with a controlled yet jarring impact. The fuselage made contact with the water, sending a surge of waves cascading over the wings and tail. For a fleeting moment, everything seemed suspended in time. The hum of the engine ceased, replaced by the relentless roar of rushing water and the metallic groan of the aircraft structure responding to the sudden halt. Inside the cabin, the passengers felt the full force of the landing. The seats buckled under the strain, and the water surged into the aisles, creating a tumultuous environment. Despite the chaos, Lisa remained a pillar of calm, her voice cut through the disarray, issuing clear instructions to the passengers: remain calm, keep your seatbelts fastened, and prepare for evacuation. Mick and Dave worked in tandem, ensuring that the landing was as smooth as possible given the circumstances. They monitored the aircraft's systems, confirming that the engines were fully out and that the plane was stable on the water. Mick's mind raced with contingency plans, but for now, their primary focus was ensuring the immediate safety of everyone on board. As the plane settled onto the water, Lisa and the other flight attendants began the evacuation process. They swiftly opened the emergency exits. Battling against the force of the water and the wind, Lisa led the way, her training evident in every movement as she guided passengers towards the exits. The sound of rushing water and the distant wail of sirens filled the air, signaling the arrival of rescue teams. Rescue boats from nearby locations quickly responded to the distress call. The first responders approached the aircraft, navigating through the waves with determination. The sight of the rescue teams provided a beacon of hope amidst the uncertainty. Lisa coordinated with the rescuers, ensuring that passengers were safely transferred from the aircraft to the boats. Trip Harris and Pam Siegel, along with the other passengers, felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion as they were pulled from the sinking plane. Trip, once a project manager, now found himself clutching his grandchildren tightly, grateful for the chance to see them again. Pam, whose life had taken a new direction after the incident, expressed profound gratitude towards the crew and rescuers who had saved her life. Mick, understanding the gravity of the situation, took a moment to assess the plane. He walked around the cabin, checking for any remaining passengers and ensuring that no one was trapped inside. His presence provided a sense of reassurance to everyone, embodying the courage and dedication that had brought them through the ordeal. As the last passengers were evacuated, Mick returned to the cockpit, his eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of further danger. The once stormy skies had begun to clear, and the calm waters of the Hudson reflected the resilience of those who had survived. The collective breath of 155 lives had been held and released, culminating in a miraculous survival story that would be remembered for generations. The crew gathered outside the aircraft, their faces etched with fatigue and relief. Lisa exchanged a meaningful glance with Mick and Dave, their unspoken bond forged in the crucible of crisis. Together, they had navigated an unprecedented emergency, their teamwork and bravery ensuring that tragedy had been averted. As the rescue boats returned to shore with the survivors, the magnitude of what had just transpired began to sink in. The miracle on the Hudson was not just a tale of survival but a testament to human resilience, leadership, and the unwavering spirit of those who refused to give up in the face of adversity. As Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 floated serenely on the surface of the Hudson River, the gravity of the situation began to sink in for everyone on board. Rescue operations were already underway, and the collective hope of survival filled the air with a palpable tension. Rescue boats from nearby locations swiftly responded to the emergency call. The first responders navigated through the choppy waters, their boats cutting through the river with determined precision. The sound of their engines and the distant wails of sirens created a sense of urgency as they approached the stranded aircraft. The crew of Skyjet worked seamlessly with the rescuers, coordinating efforts to ensure that every passenger was safely evacuated. Captain Mick Thompson and First Officer Dave Collins remained by the controls, overseeing the evacuation process. Their calm and authoritative presence provided reassurance to both the passengers and the rescue teams. Flight attendant Lisa Martinez and her colleagues took charge of directing passengers towards the emergency exits, her voice steady and clear despite the chaos around her. The flight attendants moved with practiced efficiency, ensuring that no one was left behind and that everyone was guided to safety. Trip Harris, still shaken from the ordeal, felt a surge of relief as the first rescue boat reached the aircraft. Lisa swiftly assisted him, helping him onto the boat and ensuring he was secure. Pam Siegel, who had been holding her child tightly, was also guided to safety by another flight attendant. The coordinated efforts of the crew and the rescuers meant that, despite the initial panic, the evacuation was orderly and efficient. However, the aftermath of the landing was not without its challenges. Approximately 100 passengers sustained injuries, with 5 experiencing severe trauma. medical teams were already on standby, providing immediate care to those in need. Trip and Pam, though injured, felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude towards the crew and rescuers who had saved their lives. Their stories of survival began to intertwine with those of their fellow passengers, creating a tapestry of resilience and thankfulness. As the rescue operation continued, the psychological toll on the flight crew became increasingly evident. Lisa Martinez, who had been the pillar of strength during the evacuation, found herself grappling with the intense emotions that followed. The responsibility of ensuring the safety of 155 people weighed heavily on her, and the trauma of the incident began to take its toll. Recognizing the need for support, Lisa decided to take a leave of absence a year after the incident to address the emotional scars left by the event. During her time away, Lisa focused on healing and processing the traumatic experience. However, her dedication to her profession and her unwavering commitment to her colleagues brought her back to SkyJet. Upon her return, she was determined to help her fellow flight attendants cope with the psychological aftermath. Lisa took the initiative to form a support group specifically for flight attendants, providing a safe space for them to share their experiences and support one another in overcoming their trauma. The formation of this support group was a testament to the resilience and solidarity of the flight crew. Lisa's leadership and empathy fostered a sense of community among the attendants, who had all faced similar challenges in the wake of the miracle on the Hudson. Together, they navigated the complexities of post-traumatic stress, finding strength in their shared experiences and the bonds they had formed during the crisis. Meanwhile, the passengers continued to recover, both physically and emotionally. Trip Harris, reflecting on the incident, realized the profound impact it had on his perspective on life. The near-death experience had deepened his appreciation for his family and the moments they shared together. Pam Siegel, inspired by her survival, dedicated herself to empowering women in her community, channeling her gratitude into meaningful action. The successful rescue and the subsequent support systems put in place for both passengers and crew highlighted the importance of teamwork, compassion, and resilience in the face of adversity. SkyJet Flight SJ-1549 had not only survived a potential disaster but had also fostered a community bound by shared experiences and mutual support. As the days turned into weeks, the stories of survival and recovery began to spread, inspiring others with their tales of courage and unity. The miracle on the Hudson became more than just an incident. It became a symbol of human strength and the unbreakable spirit that can emerge in the darkest of times. In the days following the emergency landing of SkyJet Flight SJ-1549 on the Hudson River, the world watched in awe as details of the event unfolded. News outlets broadcast images of the Airbus A320 resting in the icy waters, surrounded by rescue boats and the relieved faces of passengers who had narrowly escaped tragedy. The successful outcome was hailed as a miracle. But behind the headlines lay a story of meticulous investigation, recognition, and the profound impact on aviation safety. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, quickly launched a thorough investigation into the incident. Experts combed through flight data recorders, interviewed crew members, and analyzed every aspect of the landing. The investigation revealed that Captain Mick Thompson's decision to land on the Hudson River had been not only courageous but also the best possible choice under the circumstances. Returning to LaGuardia or diverting to Teterboro Airport had been impossible given the loss of engine power and the limited time available. Mick's leadership, combined with First Officer Dave Collins' steadfast support and the professionalism of the cabin crew, had prevented what could have been a catastrophic disaster. The NTSB's final report concluded that the crew's actions had adhered to the highest standards of aviation safety. Their calm decision-making, coordination, and skill were described as exemplary. In particular, Mick's ability to stay focused under intense pressure and execute a water landing with precision was highlighted as a defining factor in the survival of all 155 people on board. In the wake of the investigation, Captain Mick Thompson, First Officer Dave Collins, and Flight Attendant Lisa Martinez, along with the entire crew, were widely recognized for their heroism. They were invited to numerous ceremonies and honored with awards, including the prestigious Congressional Medal of Bravery. Mick, often described as a reluctant hero, accepted the accolades with humility, emphasizing that it had been a team effort. Dave remained steadfast by his side, sharing the credit equally and reinforcing the importance of their partnership in the cockpit. Lisa Martinez and the other flight attendants were also celebrated for their dedication and courage under pressure. Lisa's calm demeanor and ability to maintain order during the evacuation earned her widespread admiration. Her actions served as a powerful reminder of the critical role flight attendants play during emergencies, not just as service providers but as essential safety professionals. The event not only brought individual recognition but also sparked a deeper conversation about aviation safety and training. Airlines and aviation authorities worldwide examined their emergency protocols, focusing on improving training for water landings and enhancing crew coordination in high-pressure scenarios. Simulations and drills based on the events of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 became standard practice and training programs across the industry. The Miracle on the Hudson, as the media called it, extended beyond aviation safety and became a cultural touchstone. Books were written, documentaries were produced, and discussions were held about the human spirit and the power of calm leadership in the face of overwhelming odds. Captain Mick Thompson eventually co-authored a memoir titled Leading Through Crisis: Lessons from the Hudson River Landing, where he shared not only the technical aspects of that fateful day but also the emotional toll and lessons he hoped others would carry forward. In 2016, the story was adapted into a Hollywood film titled Hudson's Horizon, directed by acclaimed filmmaker Clint Porter and starring Tom Hanks as Captain Mick Thompson. The film brought global attention to the incredible story, capturing both the technical brilliance of the landing and the deeply human emotions that surrounded the event. Audiences around the world were reminded of the fragility of life and the profound responsibility borne by those in leadership positions. The physical legacy of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 also found a permanent home. The aircraft was carefully transported and displayed at the National Aviation and Aerospace Museum in Charlotte, North Carolina. Visitors from across the globe came to see the Airbus A320, preserved as a testament to human ingenuity, quick thinking, and collective courage. For the survivors, the impact of that day extended far beyond the physical rescue. Trip Harris spoke openly in interviews about how the experience had transformed his outlook on life. He reconnected deeply with his family, cherishing every moment with his grandchildren and finding renewed purpose in his professional and personal life. Pam Siegel, who had been profoundly affected by the incident, channeled her gratitude into advocacy work, focusing on empowering women and supporting communities in need. Meanwhile, Lisa Martinez's support group for flight attendants continued to grow, offering resources and emotional support to those who had faced traumatic experiences in the skies. Her initiative became a model for other airlines, emphasizing the importance of mental health support for frontline aviation professionals. The Miracle on the Hudson became more than just an aviation success story. It was a reminder of the extraordinary potential of human beings to act with courage, compassion, and skill under the most trying circumstances. It was proof that leadership, training, and teamwork could defy the odds and turn impending disaster into a story of hope. As Captain Mick Thompson reflected in one of his later interviews, "What happened that day wasn't just about me or the crew, it was about all of us. It was about trust, preparation, and the belief that even in the darkest moments, there's a way forward." The world listened, learned, and remembered. In the aftermath of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549's miraculous landing on the Hudson River, stories began to emerge, individual tales of courage, reflection, and resilience. While the event had been universally recognized as a triumph of leadership and teamwork, it was also deeply personal for those who had lived through it. Each survivor carried with them a unique perspective on those harrowing minutes in the sky and the moments that followed. Captain Mick Thompson became the face of the event. Despite being celebrated as a hero, he often downplayed his role, emphasizing that it was a team effort. In interviews and public appearances, Mick spoke about the immense responsibility he had felt in those final moments before the landing. What weighed on him the most wasn't the technical challenge of landing an Airbus A320 on a river, but the lives of the 155 people who trusted him. After the incident, Mick dedicated his time to advocating for aviation safety, sharing his experience to inspire future pilots, and promoting training programs that emphasized crisis decision-making. First Officer Dave Collins, often described as Mick's quiet and steady counterpart, played a critical role during the flight's final descent. While Mick handled the controls, Dave managed communications and supported the captain's decisions without hesitation. After the landing, Dave spoke candidly about the moments of doubt and fear he had experienced, but also about the profound trust he had placed in Mick. Their partnership became a symbol of cooperation under pressure. Dave continued his career in aviation, often speaking at training sessions for young pilots about the importance of teamwork and trust in the cockpit. For Lisa Martinez, the lead flight attendant, the aftermath of the crash landing brought both emotional challenges and personal growth. Lisa had been a beacon of calm and reassurance during the chaotic moments leading up to the evacuation. Her voice had carried over the cries of fear, giving passengers clear instructions that likely saved lives. However, the emotional toll of those moments stayed with her long after the rescue boats had brought the survivors ashore. Lisa took a year-long break from flying to focus on her mental health, eventually returning with a renewed sense of purpose. She founded a support group for flight attendants who had experienced traumatic incidents, helping others process their emotions and find healing. Among the passengers was Trip Harris, a project manager from Birmingham, Alabama. Trip had been on his way to Charlotte for a work conference, an ordinary trip that turned extraordinary in an instant. During the evacuation, Trip vividly remembered the stillness that had come over him when the engines failed, followed by the overwhelming relief of being pulled onto a rescue boat. After the incident, Trip's outlook on life shifted profoundly. He reconnected with his family, spending more time with his grandchildren and focusing on the things that truly mattered to him. He became an advocate for appreciating life's fleeting moments, often sharing his story at community events. Another survivor, Pam Siegel, had been traveling for personal reasons. The near-death experience left an indelible mark on her, shaking her perception of life and its fragility. In the months following the incident, Pam made significant changes. She moved closer to her family, pursued her passion for community empowerment, and became heavily involved in charitable initiatives supporting women's economic independence. Pam spoke at survivor gatherings and charity events, often sharing her gratitude for the crew and the rescuers who had given her a second chance at life. The passengers and crew of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 shared a unique bond, a connection forged in the crucible of survival. Over the years, reunions became a regular occurrence. Survivors and crew members gathered annually to commemorate the day their lives had been saved and to honor the extraordinary teamwork and courage that had made it possible. During these gatherings, they shared stories, tears, and laughter, bound together by an experience few could truly understand. In one particularly moving moment during a reunion, Lisa Martinez stood before the group and spoke about the strength she had witnessed that day, not just from the cockpit crew, but from every single passenger who had followed instructions, stayed calm, and supported one another during the evacuation. Mick and Dave often attended these reunions as well, their humility and quiet leadership continuing to inspire those around them. Beyond the individual stories of survival, there was a larger narrative of community and shared humanity. The people of New York, from the ferry operators to the emergency responders, played an indispensable role in ensuring the safety of everyone on board. Their swift response and tireless efforts became a shining example of how a community could rally together in a time of crisis. The relationships formed between the passengers, crew, and rescuers extended far beyond the waters of the Hudson River. Trip and Pam remained lifelong friends, frequently reconnecting to reflect on their shared experience. Lisa's support group grew into a national network for airline staff, providing resources and counseling to those who faced trauma in their line of work. These stories of resilience, growth, and gratitude became as integral to the miracle on the Hudson as the technical details of the landing itself. They spoke not only of survival but of transformation, of people who took a moment of unimaginable fear and turned it into a catalyst for positive change in their lives and in the lives of others. The impact of Flight SJ-1549 went far beyond aviation history. It became a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Whether it was Mick's steady hands on the controls, Dave's calm guidance, Lisa's unwavering voice, or the courage of passengers like Trip and Pam, every individual played a role in turning what could have been a tragedy into a story of hope, resilience, and unity. The waters of the Hudson River carried not only an aircraft that day, but also the indomitable will of those aboard, a will that would continue to inspire long after the ripples had settled. In the years following the miraculous landing of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 on the Hudson River, the event became more than just a story of survival. It became a catalyst for change, a blueprint for resilience, and a symbol of human determination in the face of impossible odds. The lessons drawn from that cold January day rippled far beyond the aviation industry, leaving an indelible mark on safety protocols, crisis management, and the collective human spirit. For the aviation industry, the incident triggered a wave of introspection and reform. The investigation conducted by the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, highlighted not only the exceptional skill of Captain Mick Thompson and First Officer Dave Collins, but also areas where airline procedures and training could be improved. Water landing simulations, once considered rare and unlikely scenarios, became standard practice in pilot training programs. Emergency protocols were refined to include more comprehensive drills for low-altitude engine failure, emphasizing real-world applications rather than theoretical exercises. Airlines across the world adopted enhanced crisis management training for both cockpit crews and cabin staff. The actions of Lisa Martinez and her team during the evacuation became a case study in how clarity, calmness, and leadership could mean the difference between chaos and survival. Training modules now include her methods of maintaining order, communicating effectively, and managing the emotional states of passengers during emergencies. Communication between air traffic control and flight crews also came under review. The quick, precise exchanges between Mick, Dave, and ground control highlighted the importance of maintaining clarity under pressure. As a result, improvements were made to emergency communication protocols, ensuring that pilots in distress have quicker access to essential guidance and resources. Beyond technical and procedural changes, the miracle on the Hudson reshaped how the world viewed the role of airline professionals. Pilots were no longer seen merely as individuals operating machines. They were leaders in high-stakes scenarios where every second counted. Flight attendants, too, gained widespread recognition as vital safety personnel, not just as service providers. Lisa's story became a beacon for cabin crew members worldwide, illustrating the importance of their role in moments of crisis. The broader lesson of preparedness and leadership resonated far beyond aviation circles. Businesses, schools, and emergency response teams began referencing the miracle on the Hudson in leadership seminars and crisis management workshops. Mick Thompson's calm decision-making and decisive action under pressure became a textbook example of effective leadership, with corporations often citing his approach in training their own leaders to handle critical situations. Captain Mick Thompson himself became a prominent advocate for aviation safety and leadership training. He co-authored the book Leading Through Crisis: Lessons from the Hudson River Landing, sharing not only the technical details of the flight but also the emotional and psychological challenges he faced in those 6 critical minutes. Mick toured universities, aviation academies, and corporate events, spreading his message about preparation, resilience, and the weight of responsibility in leadership roles. First Officer Dave Collins, though less public-facing than Mick, continued his contributions to aviation safety through training programs and seminars. He often spoke about the importance of teamwork in the cockpit and how trust between pilots could make all the difference in high-pressure scenarios. Dave's quiet dedication to mentorship left an equally lasting impact on young aviators entering the industry. Lisa Martinez, after founding her support group for flight attendants, became a leading voice in advocating for mental health support within the aviation community. Her initiative grew into a national network, offering counseling, workshops, and peer support for flight attendants dealing with trauma from in-flight emergencies. Airlines began investing more heavily in emotional well-being programs for their staff, recognizing the psychological toll that such incidents could have on frontline personnel. The passengers of Flight SJ-1549, too, carried the legacy of that day into their lives. Trip Harris, once focused solely on his career, began prioritizing family and community involvement. He spoke at schools and local events, sharing his experience and emphasizing the value of every fleeting moment. Pam Siegel became deeply involved in charitable work, dedicating herself to causes focused on women's empowerment and community building. Both Trip and Pam remained active members of the survivor community, attending annual reunions and contributing to support networks for trauma survivors. In a more tangible sense, the physical legacy of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 lives on in the National Aviation and Aerospace Museum in Charlotte, North Carolina. The aircraft, meticulously preserved, serves as both a historical artifact and an educational tool. Visitors from around the world walk through the cabin, listening to recorded accounts from the survivors and witnessing firsthand the conditions under which 155 lives were saved. Every January 15th, survivors, crew members, and rescuers gather to commemorate the event. The reunions are not just about reflection, they are about gratitude, about remembering the fragility of life, and about honoring the teamwork that turned an almost certain tragedy into a triumph. Captain Mick Thompson, often present at these gatherings, would stand quietly among the crowd, observing the faces of those he had helped save, a silent acknowledgement of the extraordinary bond they all shared. But perhaps the greatest legacy of the miracle on the Hudson is the reminder of human resilience and collective effort. The event showcased what happens when preparation meets courage, when training aligns with instinct, and when individuals from different walks of life come together with a shared goal: survival. It's not just a story of a plane landing on a river, it's a story of leadership, trust, and the extraordinary capacity of ordinary people to rise to extraordinary challenges. It serves as a testament to the power of humanity under pressure, and a reminder that even in moments of overwhelming uncertainty, there is always a chance for hope, courage, and survival. In the words of Captain Mick Thompson during one of his final interviews, the miracle on the Hudson wasn't about me, or Dave, or Lisa. It was about all of us, every single passenger, every member of the crew, every rescuer who came rushing to help. It was proof that together, we can face the impossible and come out on the other side stronger. In the years following the emergency landing of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 on the Hudson River, the personal and communal legacies of that extraordinary event continued to grow. The story was no longer confined to the passengers and crew who had lived through it. It had become a symbol of resilience, leadership, and the power of collective action in the face of overwhelming odds. For Captain Mick Thompson, the legacy of that day extended far beyond the accolades and public recognition. After retiring from commercial aviation, Mick dedicated his time to sharing the lessons he had learned with aspiring pilots, leaders, and crisis management professionals. He became a sought-after speaker at aviation conferences and leadership seminars worldwide, often emphasizing the importance of preparation, humility, and decisiveness in critical moments. Mick also served as an advisor to multiple aviation safety committees, contributing his first-hand knowledge to help prevent similar emergencies in the future. Despite his prominence, Mick remained a humble figure, often redirecting attention to the teamwork and collective effort that had saved 155 lives that day. First Officer Dave Collins, though less visible in the public eye, also left a profound legacy. Dave continued flying for several years before transitioning into a role as a senior flight instructor. He specialized in teaching crisis simulation scenarios to young pilots, stressing the importance of communication, trust, and precision in the cockpit. His calm demeanor and thoughtful approach made him a beloved mentor to many, and his influence could be seen in the next generation of aviators who carried his lessons into their own flights. Lisa Martinez, the lead flight attendant, remained an advocate for mental health support within the airline industry. Her support group for flight attendants grew into a nationwide initiative, offering workshops, counseling, and peer support for cabin crews who had experienced traumatic incidents. Lisa's work helped break down stigmas surrounding mental health in aviation, and her advocacy ensured that future crews had access to better emotional support systems. She also authored a book sharing her experiences, titled Grace Under Pressure: A Flight Attendant's Journey Through Crisis. The book became a staple in training programs for cabin crew worldwide, highlighting the essential role flight attendants play during emergencies. For the passengers of Flight SJ-1549, the legacy took on deeply personal meanings. Many survivors experienced a profound shift in their perspectives on life, relationships, and priorities. Trip Harris, the project manager from Birmingham, Alabama, became an active speaker at community events and corporate seminars. He shared his experience not as a tale of fear, but as a lesson in gratitude and living with purpose. Tripp scaled back his demanding work schedule to spend more time with his family, especially his grandchildren. He also became involved in local charities, channeling his gratitude into helping others in need. Pam Siegel, whose life had been profoundly changed by the event, relocated to a quieter coastal town to focus on what truly mattered to her. She became an advocate for women's empowerment, working with nonprofit organizations to create opportunities for women in underserved communities. Pam often spoke at survivor reunions, sharing her story as a reminder that life could change in an instant and that every moment should be cherished. The bond between the passengers and crew remained strong in the years following the event. Annual reunions became sacred gatherings, held not only to commemorate their shared survival but to celebrate the relationships that had formed in the aftermath. Survivors would travel from all over the country to attend these events, where they would share memories, updates on their lives, and gratitude for the second chance they had been given. During these reunions, survivors often spoke of the extraordinary bond they felt with one another, a connection that transcended the usual barriers of age, background, or social status. Many lifelong friendships were forged on that cold afternoon in January and deepened in the years that followed. The rescue community that had played such a vital role in the success of the evacuation was also deeply affected by the event. Ferry operators, emergency responders, and medical teams who had acted so quickly and decisively on that day became local heroes. Their coordinated response became a case study in emergency preparedness, and their actions were celebrated in both public and private ceremonies. Many rescuers stayed connected with the passengers they had saved, forming bonds that would last a lifetime. The aircraft itself, an Airbus A320-214, became a permanent exhibit at the National Aviation and Aerospace Museum in Charlotte, North Carolina. Visitors walked through its preserved cabin, listening to survivor testimonials and examining artifacts from the flight. The aircraft served not only as a historical record but also as a powerful symbol of hope, resilience, and the extraordinary results of human ingenuity and teamwork. The story of Flight SJ-1549 became a universal metaphor for overcoming adversity. Schools used it as a case study in leadership and crisis management. Corporations referenced it in workshops on teamwork and communication. Even outside of aviation, the story inspired countless individuals to face their challenges with courage and resolve. Beyond the individual stories, the collective legacy of Flight SJ-1549 lies in its enduring message that in moments of crisis, leadership, preparation, and trust can create miracles. It reminded the world that no single act of heroism stands alone, that every success story is built on the shoulders of a team working together, often in the most unforgiving of circumstances. In one of his final public addresses, Captain Mick Thompson reflected on the lasting legacy of that day. Standing before an audience filled with survivors, rescue workers, and future pilots, he said, "What happened on the Hudson wasn't about one person or one decision. It was about people coming together, trusting one another, and doing their jobs with everything they had." The legacy of Flight SJ-1549 isn't just in how we landed that plane, it's in how we rose together after we landed. These words captured the spirit of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549. It wasn't just a story of survival, it was a story of humanity at its best. The waters of the Hudson River became a mirror reflecting not just the image of an Airbus A320, but the resilience, courage, and selflessness of those who had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. The story of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 is not just about an extraordinary landing on the Hudson River, it is about leadership under pressure, the unyielding commitment of professionals, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of imminent disaster. It is a testament to how preparation, quick thinking, and teamwork can turn an almost certain tragedy into a triumph of survival. Captain Mick Thompson, First Officer Dave Collins, and Flight Attendant Lisa Martinez emerged as symbols of courage, professionalism, and selflessness. Their actions, along with the coordinated efforts of the entire crew, were not acts of chance but the result of decades of training, experience, and dedication to their roles. These were ordinary people who, in an extraordinary moment, rose to meet the challenge before them with grace and resolve. For Mick, the landing was never about heroism, it was about responsibility. His steady hand on the controls and his quick decision-making in those critical 6 minutes saved 155 lives. Yet, even after the world hailed him as a hero, Mick remained humble, always redirecting the spotlight to the team effort that made the outcome possible. His leadership style became a lesson for leaders across industries, reminding them of the importance of clarity, decisiveness, and accountability during times of crisis. Dave Collins, the steadfast first officer, demonstrated the vital role of support and trust in teamwork. His ability to stay calm under pressure, manage communications, and assist Mick in those fateful moments became a case study in cockpit resource management. Dave's story served as a reminder that every role in a team is critical and that trust between colleagues can determine the outcome of a crisis. Lisa Martinez, alongside her fellow flight attendants, proved that true leadership isn't limited to the cockpit. Her calm demeanor, clear instructions, and empathy provided passengers with a lifeline during the evacuation. Lisa's contributions extended far beyond that day as she championed mental health resources for aviation crews, building a support system for those often overlooked in the aftermath of such incidents. The passengers of Flight SJ-1549 each carried their own stories of survival. Individuals like Trip Harris and Pam Siegel became symbols of gratitude and renewal. Their reflections on life, family, and purpose served as reminders to cherish every moment and to find meaning in second chances. Their stories, though deeply personal, resonated with audiences worldwide, offering hope and perspective to those facing their own struggles. The community response to the incident, the swift actions of rescue workers, ferry operators, and emergency responders highlighted the strength of collective action. The people of New York came together with a shared purpose: to save lives. Their efforts became a reminder that even in moments of chaos, humanity's capacity for compassion and selflessness can shine through. The aviation industry, too, was forever changed. Training protocols evolved to include more comprehensive emergency water landing simulations. Communication systems between pilots and air traffic controllers were refined. Airlines worldwide invested in better mental health resources for crews and placed greater emphasis on crisis management training. Flight SJ-1549 became not just a story of survival but a catalyst for meaningful change in aviation safety. But beyond the technical lessons, Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 left a deeper legacy, one that speaks to every individual, regardless of their field or role in life. It's a story about staying calm when chaos surrounds you, about trusting your team, and about making difficult decisions with courage and clarity. For those watching from afar, the Miracle on the Hudson serves as an enduring symbol of hope. It reminds us that even when faced with seemingly impossible odds, humans are capable of extraordinary things. Whether it's a pilot making a split-second decision, a flight attendant guiding frightened passengers, or a ferry operator steering towards danger to save strangers, this story highlights the best of humanity. This story doesn't end with the final chapter, it lives on in the lessons we carry forward. Every one of us, regardless of our roles, will face moments of crisis, moments where the stakes are high, and our actions matter. The story of Skyjet Flight SJ-1549 calls upon us to prepare ourselves, to stay calm under pressure, and to support those around us when it matters most. For leaders, it's a lesson in responsibility and clear decision-making. For team members, it's a reminder of the power of trust and collaboration. For everyday individuals, it's proof that small acts of courage, kindness, and composure can make all the difference in the world. Let this story not just be one we remember, but one we live by, whether in our workplaces, our communities, or our homes. Let us take the example set by Mick, Dave, Lisa, and every individual involved in this story and apply it to our own lives. As visitors continue to walk through the preserved Airbus A320 at the National Aviation and Aerospace Museum, as survivors gather year after year to reflect on their shared experience, and as future pilots study this event in their training, the Miracle on the Hudson remains more than just a chapter in aviation history. It is a timeless story of resilience, courage, and the human spirit, a story that challenges us all to rise above our fears and face the unknown with determination and hope. In Captain Mick Thompson's own words, the lesson of Flight SJ-1549 is not just about landing a plane on a river. It's about showing up for each other, about being prepared, and about believing that even in the darkest of moments, we can still create light. This is not just a story about a plane. It's a story about people. And it's a story worth remembering.
This isn't just a story about survival. It's about people coming together against impossible odds. What part of this story inspired you the most? Share your thoughts and this story with others. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.